Alright, so a lot of people want me to talk about Goldenflower. I was expecting maybe 1 or 2 comments about it, but I guess people want it. Okay, so this is the finale to the Perma-Queen trilogy. All 3 queens that have been confirmed to be living in the nursery full-time after their own kits have grown. However, out of the 3, Goldenflower is definitely the least utilized. She was definitely the most liked, though, whereas Daisy and Ferncloud had an absurd amount of hate thrown at them. I never saw anyone say anything negative about Goldenflower. Despite her basically butting heads with the main protagonist for a few books, it's pretty much agreed on that she was the one in the right. She was in the first book, Into the Wild, but she didn't really do anything other than just be a nursery queen. She has a bit more of a role in Fire and Ice, where she helps take care of Blue Star when she had green cough and is asked her opinion on Cloudkit joining the clan, which is negative, by the way, just like everyone else. Her son, Swiftpaw, becomes an apprentice in this book too. He's not actually revealed to be her son until he dies 3 books later, and frankly, I consider this to be a retcon because nowhere before it is it mentioned that they're related. Like when Frostfur's kids are apprenticed, they are specifically mentioned to be Frostfurs, but absolutely nothing for Swiftpaw. Assuming I'm right though, it's a retcon that does work, since Goldenflower did have a litter in Into the Wild. So, hey. It isn't until Forest of Secrets that Goldenflower really gets a chance to shine. She's recently given birth, and Graystripe's secret love affair with a Riverclad cat has ended in his girlfriend dying in childbirth, and now his kits need someone to nurse them. And while fellow nursery queen Speckletail very pointedly doesn't want anything to do with any half-clad kits, Goldenflower, after a slight hesitation, agrees to take them in. The strain of nursing so many kits is mentioned to be wearing on her, and the fact that Graystripe is always in the nursery fretting over his children seems to be stressing her out too, but she's extremely patient towards him, even telling him not to listen to Speckletail when she snaps at him, and that his daughter will be just as beautiful as her mother, which, considering her mother was an enemy warrior, is kind of a buck-wild thing to say, and just goes to show the pure compassion Goldenflower has for not only these children, but for their grieving father. She's one of the only cats in ThunderClan who shows any sympathy for Graystripe during this time. It's even mentioned that Goldenflower is looking at both her kits and Graystripe's kits with the exact same love and admiration. And it said that Goldenflower will do her best with the kits, not just because of clan loyalty, but also because she is good and kind. The fact that Goldenflower doesn't seem bothered by their parentage is a little marred by the earlier scene where she doesn't want Cloudkit to join ThunderClan, but one could make the argument that she was concerned about his health, since she was arguing that he would die before winter was over. So while still rooted in bigotry, and that she thinks kitty pets are weak and soft, it's arguably not as hateful as the rest of the clan. And she's shown to have a strong bond with the half-clan kits when Graystripe decides to bring his children to Riverclad. She calls them my beloveds and seems to be extremely sad as Graystripe leads them away, with her own children attempting to comfort her. This moment is burned into my mind. It's just so sweet how much she loved them, especially with all the drama surrounding them. Between Speckletail making her snide remarks, Graystripe lingering over her the entire time, and that general tension around the camp, it must have been an extremely harrowing and stressful time for Goldenflower, but she handled it with grace and loved those kits with all her heart, despite the hardship. Now, one thing that is important to note is that Goldenflower's 2 kits were fathered by the deputy, Tigerclaw, and this is actually the thing that Goldenflower is best known for. At the end of Forest of Secrets, Tigerclaw attempts to assassinate Blue Star and is kicked out of the clan, and from then on spends literally all his free time terrorizing and trying to destroy ThunderClan. Now, we don't know what the relationship between Tigerclaw and Goldenflower was like. It was never shown or discussed in any kind of depth. He was seen visiting the nursery once, but that's it. For all we know, Tigerclaw and Goldenflower literally just got together to have children. Tigerstar seems to be a character concerned about his bloodline and legacy, so him wanting kits makes sense. And Goldenflower did have a child with someone else right before she had kids with Tigerclaw, so it's not like they were in a long-term relationship or anything. She isn't shown at the end during Tigerclaw's exile, but we see in the next book that she seems to despise Tigerclaw as much as everyone else, and seems ashamed while Tigerclaw talks about his dog pack shenanigans in A Dangerous Path. Regardless, Goldenflower is forever linked to Tigerclaw in that she is the mother of his 2 children, one of which looks nearly identical to him. Now, Bramblekit is the first case of what is known in the fandom as a Tigerstar clone. Basically, Tigerstar's genes are super dominant, and a shocking amount of his descendants look identical to him. And since Tigerstar is evil, his descendants who are unfortunate enough to look like him tend to have certain assumptions made about them. This does mean that we get into the whole nature versus nurture debate, which, in case you don't know, is the debate on if you're born with your personality and character, or if you get it as a product of how you were raised. The series is really weird on this. Tigerstar is prophesized to be evil from pretty much his birth. The psychic Goosefeather is freaking out about him in Blue Star's prophecy when he's just a baby. But it's also shown that he's spoiled rotten as a child, and his father left to be a kitty pet, and then he was given to Thistleclaw, who trained him to be hyper-violent. I don't know, it just seems kinda contradictory to me to show that he was born evil, but that he was made evil later by some bad parenting and training. However, Pine Star's Choice later introduced the idea that Tigerkit was prophesied to be powerful, and whether it was good power or bad power would depend on if his father raised him correctly, and his father abandoned him, dooming him to become evil. And I honestly kinda like that. It's a really good way to sort of merge nature and nurture together. It's also kinda funny that part of Tigerclaw's backstory is basically just that his mother never told him no. But I honestly preferred when Tigerclaw didn't have a canon backstory. Tigerclaw was really just a competent warrior that everyone respected, who thought that he deserved more than he was getting. A lot of people think that that makes him a boring character, and in some ways, yeah, he's not exactly subtly written at all. Oh, this big, spooky, dark cat who's mean and racist. Oh, I wonder who the villain is. But it's also true to life that usually the most evil people are just doing what they do because of greed. That they want money and power, and that is literally their only motive. In the first few books, he's just a bad dude who everyone thinks is a good dude, and as a result, he gets away with a lot for a long time before his crimes become public. It speaks to the culture of clan cats that they're willing to turn a blind eye to someone who with a pure bloodline, who is a competent warrior, but throw outsiders and less competent members of the clan under the bus at a moment's notice. Fireheart, however, having seen Tigerclaw's cruel side from the beginning, is not easily fooled. And once he finds out that Tigerclaw has children, the question is raised on whether or not that badness is genetic. Fireheart first lays eyes on little baby Bramblekit and is immediately threatened by him. During the fire in Rising Storm, Fireheart chooses to save Bramblekit instead of Yellowfang because he is a literal baby, but then spends a lot of time angsting over how he made the wrong decision because Bramblekit is definitely gonna grow up to be evil. And when it's time to make Bramblekit an apprentice, he chooses to mentor him himself so that he can keep an eye on him. Bramblepaw is forced to go through an arc in the first series where he has to prove that he's not evil like his father, and it all comes to a head when he turns down his father's offer and chooses to stay in ThunderClan. But the whole question of if Bramblepaw is evil or not only exists in Fireheart's head. We as the reader are never given any reason to think he is or is struggling with that kind of thing, except for the fact that he looks exactly like his father. Bramblepaw never actually does anything suspicious. Fireheart just sees him making a weird face every so often and projects all of his Tigerclaw related trauma onto it. For example, there are a couple instances where little Bramblekit is playing roughly with another kit. And to Fireheart, this is evidence that Bramblekit is naturally aggressive. But in reality, sometimes kids play too hard. And this is where Goldenflower comes in. She's on the polar opposite of Fireheart, in that when she looks at Bramblekit, she just sees an innocent baby, and she feels the need to protect him from what she perceives as an unfair punishment for crimes he did not commit. Your eyes have always betrayed your heart, but these are my kits, and I will die to protect them if I have to. I'm afraid for them, Fireheart. The clan will never forgive Tigerclaw, nor should they. But Bramblekit and Tontykit have done nothing wrong, and I will not let them be punished because of Tigerclaw. I'm not even going to tell them who their father was, just that he was a brave and powerful warrior. And yes, she is biased because he is her son, but she's also right. He has done nothing wrong, yet he is discriminated against because of who his father is. This is, as the story points out, wrong, especially since Fireheart himself was an outsider who joined the clan as an apprentice and has been heavily discriminated against for it. So him doing that exact same thing to another child is extremely hypocritical, and this is appropriately called out. Cinderpelt pretty much lays it all out for him right away. She even makes a point that I really like, reminding Fireheart that Bramblekit has two parents, and Goldenflower is good and kind, and she will be the one raising him alongside the rest of the clan. She goes on to say, you of all cats should know that you can't judge someone by the circumstances of their birth. Another direct comparison is made a few books later in The Darkest Hour. We're more alike than I ever realized, Firestar thought, constantly having to prove our loyalties by fighting twice as hard, defending ourselves twice as much to our enemies, and to our clanmates. I think this is why Goldenflower asks that Fireheart be the one to tell her children about their father, because she knows that he knows what it's like to be different and should, in theory, be able to sympathize with these children as he's telling them how the circumstances of their birth is going to make their life so much harder. He's already given the exact same speech to Cloudkit after all, and maybe she's hoping he'll realize how similar he is to Bramblepaw while doing it. Despite everything though, it still takes Firestar until Bramblepaw straight up projects his father to his face for him to fully trust him. Even when realizing that he and Bramblepaw have had to fight twice as hard to be respected as everyone else, he still continues to be suspicious of this kid who's done literally nothing wrong. And because I know I'm gonna get some comments about it, none of this is changed by the actions of Bramblestar later in the series. I know he's a jerk now, and I know that he treats his mate horribly, and I see the sentiment floating around that Fireheart should have chosen to save Yellowfang in the fire instead of Bramblekit, because Yellowfang became a terrible character after she died, and Bramblekit became a horrible person after he grew up. But Bramblekit was a baby. He hadn't done anything yet. He wasn't even capable of doing anything. And honestly, Bramblestar being a jerk wasn't proof that he was a bad person all along. It's proof that the writers aren't good at writing a consistent character. Same with Yellowfang. Both of these characters have been around for 2 decades. Wow, that just hit me. Oh my god. And this series is written by a bunch of different people who don't talk to each other and don't have a lore bible. We've been over this. Somewhere along the way, the characterization slipped and it never recovered. And now, here we are. The problem with Bramblestar is a writing and characterization problem. Not that he was actually mean and wicked the entire time. I mean, the writers still seem to think that he's a good guy. He's not meant to be a villain. And, you know, if Squirrel Flight had ended up with Shrewpaw instead, they could have also written Shrewpaw to be cruel and abusive later in life. I know he was a sweet little apprentice, but so was Bramblepaw. It was just bad writing that made him have to essentially redo his character arc in the new prophecy, and then write him as overly controlling once he became leader, all while treating him like a good guy. But honestly, 2022, or I guess 2023 Bramblestar is not relevant to 2004 Bramblepaw. They're basically different characters. And at this point in the story that we're talking about, he's meant to be an innocent who Fireheart was projecting all of his fear onto unfairly. Goldenflower's role here was to stand up for him. She spoke for her children, who at this point were not old enough to speak for themselves. And once they got old enough to speak for themselves, Goldenflower vanishes. After Fireheart tells Bramblepaw and Tawnypaw the truth about their father, and Bramblepaw goes off on Fireheart for treating him so badly, she basically disappears from the narrative completely. She has a couple of moments later on in the series. Most notably, she stands up for Fireheart when Darkstripe tries to get the clan to refuse Fireheart as leader, and this surprises Fireheart since he and Goldenflower have been bumping heads for a few books now, but I think that's kind of the point. If even someone who has some personal problems with Fireheart can see that he is a good and loyal ThunderClan cat, then it must be clear to everyone else. Not too long after, Goldenflower's daughter, Tawnypaw, sick of being treated badly for being Tigerstar's daughter, runs away from the clan. After a brief search, Goldenflower is shown once again arguing with Firestar. It's not a very long scene. She's basically appalled that Fireheart isn't looking harder for Tawnypaw and accuses him of not caring because he never trusted her. Now, we as the reader know that this isn't really true. Firestar honestly looked harder for Tawnypaw than he did when his own nephew went missing. But it's also easy to see where Goldenflower is coming from. Firestar did spend the last 8 or so moons glaring at her children, and Firestar himself does quietly admit that she's right about him not trusting Tawnypaw. This is, once again, Goldenflower speaking for her children when they cannot speak for themselves. Tawnypaw isn't here to defend herself, so Goldenflower does it for her. This time it's slightly misguided, since Tawnypaw did actually deliberately run away to join her father, but the narrative still postures Goldenflower as being at least partially in the right. And then, she's gone. This is the last time that she appears in the first series. She's mentioned once more when Firestar goes to talk to Tawnypaw and notices how similar her gaze is to her mother's, but other than that, she's never mentioned again in the first arc. This is kinda bizarre, since Tawnypaw is found with ShadowClan and we get her brother's reaction, but not her mother's. And then the rest of the book is pretty much just the battle with BloodClan and all the preparation leading up to it. The cats who are staying behind are discussed, with Speckletail, Small Ear, Dappletail, One Eye, and Willowpelt's free kits said to be the only cats staying in the camp. And on the way to the battle, Firestar practically does a roll call of all the ThunderClan cats coming with him, and Goldenflower is not mentioned. Willowpelt isn't mentioned either, but she's shown getting ready to leave and is also shown in the battle. And then of course Cinderpelt and Fernpaw are said to be off to the side, healing cats during the battle, and we do see them doing that. So out of every single character in ThunderClan, Goldenflower is the only one left unaccounted for. And it kinda gets worse when we get into the new prophecy. Remember how frantic and angry Goldenflower was when Tawnypaw disappeared in the darkest hour? Well, at midnight, both Tawnypelt and Bramblekit go missing, and Goldenflower's reaction is not shown. She's in this book too. She and Bramblekit have a short conversation when he goes to visit Ferncloud's kits, and it's established here that Goldenflower has moved into the nursery in the moons before her retirement in order to help the nursing queens with their kits, essentially making her the series' first perma-queen. It's specifically said that she will be looking after Ferncloud's kits in the nursery, and she affectionately teases Bramblekit here, and it seems like they're still close. But then she's not shown through the rest of the book, even when both of her children go missing. Then, the next book is Moonrise. The two legs are tearing down the forest, and the prey is disappearing, and Ferncloud is unable to keep her kits fed. leading to one of them starving to death. Goldenflower, who, again, was specifically said to be staying in the nursery to help Ferdcloud with her kits, is never mentioned. In fact, she's not in this book. She's shown listed in the allegiances, but she doesn't appear one single time in the actual story itself. And again, her children are still missing. The children she was extremely protective of in the previous series. No reaction, no mention at all of how she might be feeling. Next is Dawn. Goldenflower is not in this book either. Again, listed in the allegiances, but not in the actual book. Here we see Ferdcloud losing another kit, and a kitty pet named Cody briefly moving into the nursery to help Ferdcloud take care of her last surviving child. So, the authors made an entirely new character to take the role that they already gave to Goldenflower. This book also has Goldenflower's 2 children come back and leading the clans over the mountains to their new lake home. No mention of her whatsoever. No mention of her on the journey. No mention of her when her children come home. In fact, Stormfur goes to ThunderClan to see his father, but no mention if Tawny Pelt would want to see her mother. Even when Tawny Pelt does go to ThunderClan later, there's no mention of Goldenflower. She finally comes back in Starlight. She's actually shown to be lying next to Ferdcloud, and she's one of the more optimistic cats when arriving at their new lake home. She's even seen comforting her son when he's bummed out by how negative everyone's being. She has a short bout of sickness and is pretty much lumped in with the elders. Actually, she is an elder now. When did they make her an elder off screen? She was not one in the previous book. And the timeline doesn't really add up here. In Dawn, all the elders, aside from Longtail, chose to stay in the forest. To die, I guess. And then they go on their long journey, and before they even find a place to live, she's an elder? Did she retire during the journey? Why would she do that? It's not like she was going to get any rest while they were climbing the mountains. And for the rest of the second series, Goldenflower just kind of appears in group shots or as an elder doing elder things. Her appearances are sparse, but at least she's there, I guess. She's often shown hanging around with and helping guide Longtail, and I always found that really cute. Goldenflower describing their new home in great detail to the blind Longtail, it's burned into my memory as a very wholesome moment. And I'm sure it wasn't intended by the authors, but Longtail was Swiftpaw's mentor. Swiftpaw, of course, being Goldenflower's oldest son, who died. And Longtail was shown to have taken his training very seriously and cared very much about Swiftpaw. So the fact that Swiftpaw's mother and mentor ended up being such close friends is very sweet. I always headcanoned that they bonded over their mutual grief, but of course that isn't shown in the actual books. Something else that isn't shown in the books is Goldenflower's reaction to her son becoming deputy. She's mentioned to be at the meeting where Firestar announces that he's going to replace Graystripe, but her reaction to seeing her son be promoted is apparently not important enough to include. And that's it! Goldenflower dies sometime between sunset and the site. There's no mention of what happened to her at all in the books, though Vicky confirmed later that she died peacefully of old age. She does appear to give Bramblestar one of his 9 lives, which is good. I would have actually rioted if they forgot to include her in her son's 9 lives ceremony. And she shows up in a couple of prequel books, where it's revealed that she's Speckletail and Small Ear's daughter, and Lionheart's sister. I'm not super fond of her parents being Speckletail and Small Ear, but I guess it doesn't break anything, other than Small Ear making rude comments to Tawny Paw being the final straw that made her leave ThunderClan. He literally drove away his own granddaughter. But otherwise, whatever. I actually really like her and Lionheart being siblings. Just something about these 2 golden cats being related that I like a lot. Plus it makes Brightheart and Swiftpaw cousins. And that weirdly feels right. Like, they feel like cousins. I also like that she and Blue Star were friends when they were younger, and that Blue Star apparently gave Goldenflower a little nick on her ear that she thought was really cool. But yeah, otherwise that's pretty much it. I think it's fair to say that Goldenflower got dropped, right? And that's a shame because considering Goldenflower is the ex of the main villain, she really is in an interesting position. I mean, going into her relationship with Tigerclaw could have been an interesting way to bolster his character, especially if he was totally fine to her. No one is mean all the time, and the POV character we have for the first series is one of the few cats in the clan that Tigerclaw goes out of his way to torment. It might be interesting to see him from the perspective of someone who actually liked him, who maybe saw him as a little gruff, but generally a nice dude whose loyalties were in the right place, and how that conflicted with the ways he hurt her later on. Now, I mentioned earlier that Swiftpaw was revealed to be Goldenflower's son shortly after his body was found, and that I thought that this reveal could be a retcon. The thing is, if it was planned from the start that Swiftpaw was Goldenflower's kit, they didn't seem to realize that that would also make him Tigerstar's stepson. And Tigerstar straight up caused his death. Now, Tigerstar didn't bring the dog pack to the forest, but he kept them there. He fed them so that they'd get the taste for blood and would eventually storm the ThunderClan camp and kill everyone. And Swiftpaw, in a vain attempt to prove his worth, went with Brightpaw to see what was killing all the prey at Snake Rocks and was mauled to death by the dog pack. So Tigerstar essentially killed his stepson. Even more horrifying is that shortly after Swiftpaw's death, Tigerstar decides to make a play for custody of his two children, and he decides to use Swiftpaw's death as a reason why his children aren't safe in ThunderClan. He's using his ex's son's death to get custody of her two other children, while knowing that he's the one who caused his death in the first place. Then he attempts to have Darkstripe kidnap his two kits before the dogs storm the camp, meaning that he was totally fine killing Goldenflower, his children's mother, as long as he got custody of his kits in the end. Goldenflower really goes through a lot in this arc when you think about this all from her point of view, but we never get her point of view. We get her head being down when Fireheart is explaining how Tigerstar killed Brindleface and is leading the dog pack into camp, but that's it. Like, in theory, she should be standing right there when Darkstripe tries to run off with her children. She should have shredded Darkstripe for that. But we never see her react. And like, even after a certain point, they stop writing her as being protective over her children. I already talked about her lack of reaction when her kids disappear in A New Prophecy. But even before that, Goldenflower was seen freaking out about what happened to Tawnypaw in the darkest hour. But then we actually find out what happened to Tawnypaw, and her reaction is never shown. It's never mentioned how Goldenflower feels about her daughter being in ShadowClan. Is she relieved? Angry? We don't know. Especially since Tawnypaw running off like that did kind of prove Goldenflower right that Fireheart and the rest of the clan shouldn't have been treating her kids so badly. Even getting away from her biological children, Goldenflower nursed Stormpaw and Featherpaw, Graystripe's two kits. It's mentioned specifically that she loves them as if they were her own and is devastated when they're taken away. In the darkest hour, Tigerstar orders Stormpaw and Featherpaw to be killed, and they flee back to ThunderClan. So Goldenflower's ex just tried to kill her adopted children. That could have been interesting. Imagine Goldenflower jumping back into being their mother when they come back. Imagine her anger that her ex-mate would try and harm them. And for that matter, she was nursing these kits alongside Tigerclaw's kits. Tigerclaw was really against half-clan relationships, and he called the kits half-breeds, and didn't think that ThunderClan should be raising them. And then his mate ends up being the one to raise them. suckling them beside his 2 kits. It's even mentioned that Tigerclaw visited the nursery at the same time Graystripe was there. And Goldenflower would absolutely have chosen the kits over Tigerclaw, no questions asked. But if there was some kind of confrontation or argument, we never got to see it. The fact that Tigerclaw's mate is the one nursing these kits that he later goes on to try and kill, it feels like it should be important. It feels like it should be a plot point or lead to something later on, but it never does. It just feels like an incidental detail without much thought put into it at all. Goldenflower has a cool role in the first arc. It's cool seeing a queen being so loving and protective and fierce that she's literally going up against the protagonist for being a potential threat to her children. She is well remembered for that role, and for good reason. But she's also extremely underutilized in it. All we ever get is her telling Fireheart off for being mean to her children, and her character is never explored outside of the very specific role that they assigned her. Then, once they no longer needed her in that role, she vanished completely. Then, in the next arc, they tried to give her another role, forgot that she had it, apparently forgot that she would be affected by all her surviving children, including her adopted children, by the way, going missing, and then she died off screen. It's like they forgot about her. And I know I'm kind of guilty of this too. This video is specifically about Goldenflower, but there are big chunks where she isn't even mentioned. But honestly, that's because there are so many interesting ideas around Goldenflower, and she just isn't allowed to be a part of them. It's just so frustrating. Goldenflower could have been such a cool and interesting character. She should have been a cool and interesting character. But they didn't give her any thought outside of her interactions with the main character. They didn't think about how Tigerstar's actions would have really affected her, or even the ways that she could affect her adult children. Imagine, in the new prophecy, Bramblekit being conflicted about meeting with his father and going to his mother and asking her what she thought about him. He already got told off by Tawny Pelt, but imagine Goldenflower explaining to him how much pain Tigerstar put her through, and reminding him that if he had it his way, she and the entire clan would be dead, and how that might affect Bramblekit's actions going forward. Honestly, I could sit here all day and go into every single interesting thing that they could have done with Goldenflower and say, wow, you know, I hope she gets a novella someday, but I think I'd probably be wasting my breath. Anything's possible, of course, but if the writers couldn't even remember to mention her after the last argument with Fireheart, or in the Battle of Blood Clan, or include her in books that she really should have been in, then I doubt that she'll be chosen to be expanded on in any meaningful way. Goldenflower is really the perfect example of a missed opportunity in this series, and that's a shame. Alright, well, thank you for watching. Yeah, my channel's grown quite a bit. Like, at the time of me recording this, I got like 100 subs in like about 10 days, and so that's really nice. Thank you. I do feel a little weird. Like I hope you guys know that I make other stuff other than Warrior Cats videos. Like the next one I think is gonna be it's not gonna be Warrior Cats. It's going to be assuming all goes right, it's gonna be Shadows of Rose, and then maybe I'll do one on a movie. I'm gonna keep making Warrior Cats videos in this style though. I think what I'm gonna do is, because I had like that really big one that like caused me to burn out really bad last year, I think I'm going to sort of like reformat it and do it sort of like this, and like break it up into like maybe 5 chunks or something like that. I think that would be a lot easier, because it was just way too much last time. Like I said, it would have been like 4 hours long, and just the way I was editing was just too much. I also am probably going to do a Patreon. I always told myself I would make a Patreon when I hit 2,000 subs. And now I'm 100 over that, and I still haven't done it. I'm dragging my feet. I don't like asking people for money. It's awkward. But, like if you guys want to, it's not mandatory. If I have it done by the time I upload the video, I'm going to link it below. And I don't know, maybe once I feel a little bit more comfortable, I'll do like a formal announcement. But yeah, like if you want, and the Patreon's up by the time this video goes up, feel free to check it out. But okay, oh my god, what did we talk about, Opal? Those, yeah, the two cats I draw during like this ending thing is my two cats. They are terrible. Where are you? You're terrible. You're so nice when I'm not doing something that needs quiet, and then the second I do, you're like jumping off of the walls. What is going on? Alright, don't go in your box. Yeah, anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Like and subscribe.